and probably by the state. They'll force the words out of your mouth. Okay? And that's just by the private parties. That's before the government even gets involved in these things. The government has an awesome authority on non-discrimination laws, from the federal government down to the state government, down to your local government. Every level of government enforces non-discrimination laws. Any religious universities or schools or hospitals, social service agencies, will all be subject to the non-discrimination laws. If they don't provide the same benefits, if they don't treat everybody the same, if they don't hire people who are in these relationships, they will be brought into task by the government. Right? In Maine, Portland, the city of Portland passed a bill that would require all city contractors to provide benefits to domestic partners. Catholic Charities up in Portland, Maine, didn't like that idea. They're a Catholic organization. They were pursued by the government. Eventually they managed to get out of it, but only because they hid behind another basic legal stratagem that could be taken away from them at any time. We face this in New York City too. New York City government passed a similar bill. And we only got out of it because Mayor Bloomberg, for completely different selfish reasons, managed to take the case up to the Court of Appeals and won it for us. If it was just us, we would have lost. This is as a school. You have a school attached here, right? Hire secretaries, hire custodians, right? Can't discriminate on the basis of marital status for those people. Again, you have to have a religious school, right? I assume that you may get state money for textbooks and things like that. You teach a curriculum that's required by the state to be taught, right? The state will at some point or another force us in our religious schools to say, when we teach about marriage, that real marriage is the same thing as phony marriage. And if we take state money for textbooks, for gym equipment, for school buses, for anything, we will have to not discriminate on the basis of marital status. And if anybody here is licensed as a professional, doctor, lawyer, psychologist, social worker, cosmetologist, anything, you will at some point have to sign a document saying, I do not discriminate on the basis of marital status. I will treat same-sex couples the same thing as regular married couples, or I will lose my license. The state will start to come after people for unprofessional conduct if they don't provide services. There are schools that are trying to teach new counselors, new psychologists, and if the students in training don't agree to do marital counseling, I mean, think about how crazy this is. Marital counseling for same-sex couples. They're having problems in the schools getting accreditation, they're having problems in the schools graduating, and they may not be able to get a license. This will affect everyone. The whole idea is to make everybody get on board, whether you agree to it or not. And regardless of those principles, those foundational principles of our government that I spoke about before. Religious organizations will come under attack. Every month or so I go to Albany and I meet with a bunch of the people from the Catholic institutions, the charities institutions, the hospitals and so forth. They sit around the table and they're scared because if they're afraid they're going to be put out of business because they cannot treat real marriage the same thing as phony marriage. Up in Massachusetts, the government forced Catholic Charities to stop the adoption business. They were in the business of doing adoptions for special needs kids, primarily. And they forced them out of the business. They denied them a license because they wouldn't put children with same-sex couples. They said, oh no, only married couples, real married couples, lost their license. Every religious organization, every school, every hospital has their license at risk. Again, your school here, I assume, is accredited by New York State, the New York State Department of Education at some level, right? Your school's license may be at risk because of this. It affects every individual. This is a nice big piece of property you got here, Pastor. I imagine this town of, what is it, Clarkstown, would love to tax you, right? I can't imagine how much the property taxes would be on this piece of property, right? If you discriminate against same-sex couples, you could lose your tax-exempt status. Right? Try to run a church of this size, while such a huge part of your budget is taken out for property taxes. I'm sorry, it's scary, right? We should be afraid. Our institutions should be afraid, and us as individuals should be afraid of what this is going to mean to us. This is going to affect every single one of us. I'm Irish. I look back at my ancestors, and in Ireland, they had to deal with a government that wouldn't allow us to practice our faith. It wouldn't allow us to worship in the Catholic faith. And they had laws called the test laws. I had to swear. I had to forswear the papacy, right? Or the popery, whatever the heck they called it. I had no allegiance to the Pope before I could vote, before I could own property, before I could serve in military office, before I could even get married validly under the state. I had to forswear my religious beliefs. We Irish, we have long memories. We remember, the saying is right, we remember everything and we forgive nothing. That's the saying about the Irish, right? In many ways, the worst thing that's going to happen to us as people of faith and ordinary people of a traditional mindset is we're going to be stigmatized as bigots. They believe that we're bigots. In the same way as the people back in the old days used to set the dogs on the civil rights protesters. They view us that way. They think that we're discriminating against them, we're haters, and our speech and our freedom will be restricted. Again, this is a tough battle for us. The culture, the high newspapers, TV, movies, are all against us on this. It's very important, it's very encouraging to me to come together on a night like this and see so many people of so many different faiths. It's really actually a privilege to be on the same platform as the next two speakers, very prominent fellows, especially Reverend Motley, who is a real powerhouse in Albany from the Christian perspective. We need to unite. The day is late, and the fight is coming along. And it's vitally important that all people of God, all people of goodwill, unite behind real marriage. Right? Again, the defense of human life and the defense of marriage, this is the struggle that God gave us. And we will be judged based on how we conduct this battle. We have to fight with love, but we have to fight. So, thank you very much, and I'll pass this along to my